What is going on, dudes and dudettes? No, it's been a while, but finally, of course, have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Been pretty busy with some family matters, but maybe I'll get into that at the end of the video. But yes, sadly, there is a dog barking right next door. You might hear it because the stupid owners don't want to put it inside, even though it's a pretty chilly morning out here in California. And of course, if you don't want to take care of your dog even in that way, then I don't believe you deserve one, so you shouldn't get one in the first place. So when we talk about Juju Smith-Schuster and Ronald Jones, yes, they did win their Super Bowl this last Sunday. This week has been forever, it seems like. But yes, they were able to get that victory. Maybe it was last weekend, I don't know. It seems like it's been a while. But yes, Juju Smith got his first. Ronald Jones it's his second because he did win with Tampa Bay a few years back. But I think it was pretty cool that during the interviews after, Juju Smith-Schuster found out that because he played in more than half the game and did something else extra or something like that, and they won the game, then it was $1 million bonus on his contract, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, that's just how the NFL's contracts work. And yeah, congrats to those guys, ex-USC players, so pretty awesome. Even with those two guys winning, I believe USC now, according to Fox Sports, has like 50 players total from one winning school. So they're the most all-time of winning Super Bowls, which is pretty crazy. But I think it happens a lot where a lot of these guys come from nowhere schools or not that popular of schools and end up being on winning championship teams, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, overall, USC is leading that department, which is pretty cool. Then when it comes to Eric Gentry, yes, he did post, I believe it was yesterday, that he did have ankle surgery on his injured ankle that he hurt this last Utah game, or maybe the first one. Yeah, it was earlier in the middle of the season. And he never really recovered from that. He came back for the UCLA game, didn't really play, and didn't play in the next game. A couple games, actually, either. So, he was able to get that fixed up. Everything looked like it went well. And obviously, he was looking for other guys to step up because he will be missing the spring practice and spring game. But the younger guys like a Rajon Davis, who's still on the roster, Garrison Madden, who is from Georgia as well. A couple young guys out there, and even the transfer Mason Cobb will be there. Jamil Muhammad, if he does play a regular linebacker spot. And also the freshman Tackett Curtis, who was the only linebacker they picked up from high school this year. So looking forward to seeing those guys during spring. And yes, hopefully Gentry will be healthy for the season. I'm pretty sure he will be because it is just an ankle surgery. But he is a very tall guy. He's like 6'7", very lanky. So his body is a bit different. But hopefully this surgery does end up helping him in the long run. Then when it comes to Deuce Robinson, the top talented, I think he's one of the few, if not the only, talented high school senior that hasn't committed to a team yet. I forget if Warren Robertson also hasn't yet from Texas. But yes, obviously, you know, Deuce has been weighing his decisions because he did get a workout with the Dodgers and might also end up getting some other workouts with MLB teams before the draft this summer. So if he does end up getting drafted high and it's a contract he likes, he most likely will go to the MLB. But if not, then he pretty much is being crystal balled right now to, according to Blair Angulo of, I think it's 247sports.com. He has crystal balled him to USC, even though a lot of people have been saying he's going to Georgia or maybe Texas, those other schools like that. So pretty exciting that USC is, you know, hopefully trending in the right direction with one of the top talented tight ends out there, who's really like a very athletic, not as athletic receiver, but he's very tall. So I think he'll be playing more of the receiver position. But yes, overall, it is pretty cool. It's kind of not that surprising because it is a Lincoln Riley offense, and he's going to attract a lot of the top talented guys out there. But like I said, this guy's a 50-50 for me because he seems to be a bit more interested in the MLB. And if that's his case, then he should just go try it out, see what happens. And then he'll still be young enough to come back to college if he wants to, or even pursue a career in the NFL, because you only have to spend, like 3 years out of high school. in order to get drafted, something like that. So whatever. But if he does come to USC, then that's pretty cool as well. And then the top 4-star linebacker wide receiver in the 2024 class from Long Beach Poly, James Robinson. He has been committed to USC for almost 2 years now, but he did decommit the other day, which is a little surprising just because it's like you're a pretty talented receiver and a local guy, and you've been committed to USC for a bit, and then now all of a sudden you want to open up your recruitment, and he still says that USC's in the running and all this stuff, and thanks to fans. But usually when guys have been saying that USC does not, regain a commitment from them, it's also other guys like Jet White and Aaron Butler who are coming up in the 2024 class also that decommitted from USC. So we'll see what happens with them, even though they also said very much the same thing. But either way, probably going to be a talented guy somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure USC is maybe luring some other talented guys or even higher ranked prospects to their team. So either way, still a win-win when it comes to offense and USC and these recruitments. And when it comes to USC basketball, yes, they played yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, against Cal. Ended up getting that victory pretty easily, 97-60, which is nice. All their team captains stepped up. Drew Peterson dropped 30 points. Boogie Ellis had 22, and Kobe Johnson with 15. So yeah, it's a very good overall win. I think even at halftime, USC was leading like 50-22, something like that. So yes, I'm glad they were able to get this victory. I believe they have Stanford coming up, who isn't as good like Cal, isn't as good, but Stanford did just upset Arizona over the weekend, who was ranked like a top 4 team in the nation, something like that. So yeah, they're gonna bring it, obviously. So it'll be a nice win for USC, because they did have a pretty bad loss to Oregon State, who isn't really that good last week, and it kind of damaged their March Madness hopes. And we'll see. Hopefully it didn't do as much damage as people are saying, and they will be in the tournament, because I like rooting for both USC and Duke to hopefully meet at some point. They never do, because it would have to be like in the finals or something like that, and we all know that is not going to happen. But let's hope something good happens, so we'll see. And then a new collective called the Tommy Group recently launched at USC or around USC to support USC players. I want to say it's USC athletes, not just football players, but it isn't a group of ex-players or something like that getting money to be able to pay the players now. It's giving them the guidance and being able to find like certain companies to work with or people to work with to be able to build their brand themselves, instead of like how a lot of these Texas or Florida schools are doing, where they're pretty much just handing these players millions of dollars to come and play for their school, which I think is the worst thing to do, just because then you get other controversy if they don't come or don't live up to that contract and all this stuff that's already been happening. But either way, I think USC is still doing it correctly, and with the ability that you're able to make money in certain ways. Even Caleb Williams, the Heisman winner, has been doing a lot of stuff, whether it was the NASCAR thing. He's already was sponsored by a sports drink as well, works with Beats by Dre and Nike and stuff. So yeah, if you're really good and you come to USC, you will be able to make money off the field as well. So either way, it's a win-win. Then USC football did add a couple of assistants on their team. So Bookie Radley Hiles was recently hired as a defensive analyst. He was a pretty talented California player a few years ago when he was in high school. He kind of went to Oklahoma and I want to say Florida State, not Florida State, that was would-be. Could have been Washington. Yeah, he went to Washington. Didn't really make it in the NFL, so came back as a coach or trying to be like an assistant coach. And right now he's a defensive analyst, so that's a little bit higher than a grad assistant. So that's pretty cool. So we'll see what he can do at USC. And then USC also hired an offensive guy in Trey Tinsley. I believe that's how you say it. He's an ex-quarterback with like Washington State and Mississippi State, I believe. But yes, he was hired as an offensive grad assistant. So a little bit lower position than Radley Hiles, but he's still in the program, helping out the team, getting them prepared and all that stuff, and he's learning the process as well to be able to hopefully become a coordinator and coach at some point in his future. Then when it comes to Jordan Addison, yes, a recent Bleacher Report had him mocked to obviously my LA Chargers, which is pretty cool. As far as when I looked at who was drafted before him and right after him, it still worked out. There's probably like a defender or maybe an offensive lineman that I probably would have gone after that were selected around that area. But to get a guy like Addison is pretty awesome. They definitely need to find some type of replacement for Keenan Allen when he does finally retire or the wheels come off, as they say, and he gets a little bit too old. But yes, overall, I think this is pretty cool. Wanted to talk about it a bit, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Only a couple more months until the NFL draft. That's like Christmas to me. It's pretty crazy. Then when it comes to Duke, yes, they had a very controversial loss against number 8 Virginia when they played at Virginia that day. I know it's been a while, but even since then, it's come out that even the conference has said that they reviewed the video and pretty much determined that the player did get fouled from Duke. He did get fouled while going to the basket and should have been shooting at least 2 free throws at the end of the game. At the end of the game, it was tied. Duke had an out of bounds play. The freshman Kyle Filipowski ran to the basket, got the ball, went up to try to dunk. 2 defenders came and basically whacked him down. He landed on his back, almost broke his back. He had a sore back or whatever, almost missed the next game. But yet they said there was no foul. You know what? They said there was a foul. They reviewed it, and then they said there wasn't, even though it was clearly a foul. They hit him on the hand. It seemed like the same thing that happened to the Lakers. Of course, it happened to one of my other teams as well. But of course, since Duke is an inexperienced team and one of the youngest teams in Duke history, once they go in overtime, it really isn't all good for them. And of course, they lost that game to a very talented team, a top 8 team overall in the country. So yes, either way, it was a bad look by the ACC and their referees. But the next game, Duke did play against one of my more hated rivals, Notre Dame, and they were able to get that victory. Yes, they barely did, but Duke was able to win 68-64. And yes, Kyle Filipowski, that top freshman, did play. He was questionable with that back and ankle, but luckily he was able to push through. I think even in that last game as well, Virginia did, I don't know if they did a great job or just got away with a lot of stuff like they did with that last call, but he had, I believe, 0 points, even though he's been averaging like nearly a double-double throughout the whole entire his freshman campaign so far. So yeah, he had 0 points, but he came back with like 22 points and almost 10 rebounds as well. So that was nice. And all the other guys stepped up too. Jeremy Roach also, and Mark Mitchell, the other freshman, hit a very clutch 3-point corner shot as well at the end of that game. So it's very nice to see. But yes, overall, Duke is getting robbed with a lot of these late game calls. So is freaking the Lakers. And I don't know. We'll see if anything happens with USC basketball soon. So we'll see. Then when it comes to the Chargers, yes, they did make a couple new hires. So they did hire Doug Nussmeier as the quarterbacks coach. I believe he was most recently with Kellen Moore in Dallas. So obviously bringing a friend who he knows very well, and they worked together most recently really well. So it's not that bad of a hire either. So I'm all for it. Then they also hired a inside linebackers coach in Jeff Howard, who was most recently with the Cleveland Browns. I almost said Cavaliers, but yes, he's with the Cleveland Browns. Did all right for them. He was even like a passing game analyst for them also, which means he kind of worked the offense and defense, which is what Brandon Staley is as a head coach also. He played quarterback, but is more known for his defensive play calling in the NFL. So nice to have a guy who knows both sides of the ball. Then yes, when it comes to the Lakers, they had a nice primetime Saturday night game against Golden State. And yes, both LeBron and Curry were out of this game, but still a pretty good matchup overall with the players that were still left. And a couple of the new guys that the Lakers had traded for were finally playing also, like a Vanderbilt, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley. So it was nice to be able to get to see them and how they did in that first official game, and they were able to get that victory against Golden State 109-103. Dennis Schroeder stepped up with 26 points. Anthony Davis had 13 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 blocks. He was pretty annoying most of that game because he wasn't scoring, even though this was a time to shine with LeBron out of the lineup. And, you know, he did get some very crucial blocks towards the end of that game, especially 2 of those in the fourth quarter, and a lot of those nice rebounds as well. And yes, thankfully, the veteran Schroeder stepped up also. So it was a nice victory against a team that's ahead of them in the Western Conference standings. So overall, can't be mad about that. And guys like Vanderbilt, he stepped up crazily. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He's like how Trevor Ariza was, always crashing the boards to get rebounds, playing defense all over the place, but he just has a bigger athletic body too than Ariza. So I really like him a lot. It's going to be probably tough to keep him. They might have to pay up a little bit more once his contract is up. But yes, he was definitely one of the more important players I thought they needed to get in those trades. So I'm definitely very happy that they were able to. Then a couple days later, I think they played Portland. They ended up losing that game, so we won't talk about that. But then they did play the New Orleans Pelicans the other day, and were able to get that victory 120-102. Which was also nice because the Pelicans are ahead of the Lakers in the standings, so they were able to get at least 2 victories with those teams ahead of them at least. So that was nice. I don't even think they moved up, but still nice overall. Anthony Davis had 28 points, 10 rebounds. D'Angelo Russell stepped up, one of the newer guys, 21 points, 7 assists. And LeBron James had finally returned also, but he threw in 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, so they didn't really have to do much as far as starters-wise. They did their job in the first half, and then eventually they played a lot of their secondary guys, their bench guys, in the second half, and were still able to get a nice, pretty comfortable victory against New Orleans, so that was nice. And then according to an ESPN graphics thing or whatever, according to them, before the trade deadline, the Lakers only had a 34% chance of making the playoffs, and now after, I guess, a couple of games with these new guys, apparently now the Lakers have a 45% chance of making the playoffs, which is nice because it seems like they're going to be getting hot at the right time. It was weird that LeBron, you know, he got his record and stuff, and then the last, I think 3 games before the Pelicans won, he wasn't available to play because of an injury, which for some reason he was playing with and not resting for some reason, but I guess he just wanted to get the point thing out of the way this season, and hopefully he will be now focused and ready to go for the rest of the season. Obviously this weekend is All-Star Weekend, starts tonight, which is nice with the Rising Stars, and I don't think it's a skill challenge. It might be just the Rising Stars, the freshmen and sophomore players, and then the celebrity basketball game, which usually sucks, so not gonna watch that. But yeah, they will be able to get a couple of nice days off after getting that victory against New Orleans, and hopefully they will use it to their advantage. I know it always sucks because LeBron is always the captain of one of the teams, so he does have to play Sunday, but luckily he doesn't do anything else up until then, so it's always good for that injury-wise if he is still dealing with it. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. I'm surprised this thing is still around 19 minutes, which ain't bad. And yes, I was the past 2 days doing a funeral service and a wake and everything for my grandmother, who recently passed away at the end of January, and we finally had her services. She was 99, almost made it to 100. Her birthday is in July, so of course we're going to be celebrating her more again on that time. But yes, every day just still thinking about her. Obviously grew up with her since I was in 3rd grade. She ended up moving in with us and basically took care of me and my brother most of the time while my dad was away working out of town and stuff. So it's pretty cool to always have her. And yes, we would get on her nerves because we were young guys at the time. But yes, I always remember even after high school being able to drive and stuff before I would go to work. On a Sunday, we would go to, just her and I would go to a early mass, 7 o'clock in the morning, and be able to do that before I went to work. So it's pretty cool to always be able to have some of those moments and things you think about. It was a great celebration we had for her yesterday as well for her burial service. So yeah, overall, definitely very happy that she's in a better place, and yes, she will be dearly missed. So yes, like I said, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.